Welcome to Forever Exile, the Path of Exile podcast. I'm Justin, aka Tags.
And Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
And today we are joined by the one and only Zizaran. Welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell me how you say your first name?
Real life or?
Yeah, real life.
Shit, dude.
Wh-
So it's actually
wow.
it's actually a Norwegian name. My brother chose it, and it's like the sacrificial cauldron that you would use to sacrifice like a goat. Whenever you're like sacrificing animals to the gods, you would like sacrifice it in that.
Wow.
So can you say it again?
Shit, dude.
Shit. Should I try?
Shit,
I feel
dude.
like I'm gonna. I don't want to offend you.
You guys don't really have that sound, so like everybody here would just call me Kettle. And that's what I would introduce myself to at parties and stuff. I'd be like, Kettle, it boils water. You might have heard of me. So that would be like a handy invite. But pretty much everybody calls me Ziz now. Even like my girlfriend calls me Ziz. It's literally just my parents and my grandmother that doesn't call me Ziz. Everybody else does.
That's amazing. Even your girlfriend.
Yep.
That's awesome.
I kind of like it more because it's a name you choose yourself.
I actually have a question for you about that because I did some deep diving into Zizaran, and I was kind of curious where Zizaran came from, but then I was also curious about you started off with, well, first off, you started off with Darkfall. That was the first thing I saw, and it made me wicked excited because I loved that game. Darkfall was one of my favorite ones, but it looked like maybe did you start with the Alanya? Was that the actual name that you were using?
So like I obviously had like a large amount of gaming names while gaming. And I've been gaming since I was 5, maybe. Like the first game I ever played was Dune: Battle for Arrakis. Which came out in like 1982. And,
Yeah.
like pretty old. I'm old. And then
You're with two very old people, so
true. It's nice. I feel at home here. So I can just walk you through my name history. So
yeah, I'm curious.
My first name. So I'm born in 1988. So my first name was just Killer 88.
Awesome.
And that's like, I had that for maybe like 2 years, and then I was like, I grew up. I was like 10. And I was like, this is lame. And then my star sign is Scorpio. So I started using Scorpio, and I noticed like that wasn't taken everywhere yet. Like I would actually get my name in things. So that was really cool. And then that started being taken, and I didn't want to put numbers on that because numbers are lame. And then a friend of mine was like, well, you're a child and you're on the PC all the time. How about PC child? And I started using that quite a lot. And then I would use a few names interchangeably. So PC child would be one of them. And then in most like RPGs or any game where you could see the character, I pretty much always chose a female character. It's just nicer to look at. And then I needed a female name. And I can't remember exactly how it evolved, but I think it stemmed from a game called Lands of Lore. Very, very old game. There was a character called Laura there. And I was like, I'm going to try to make up my own name. I was like, Laura, Lorania, Elenia. And it was something like that, I think. And I just like tried making a name. And then I started using Elenia. That would be one of my main names in World of Warcraft. That was my name. And then in Baldur's Gate, I wouldn't play like normal Baldur's Gate. I wouldn't play the single player campaign. I would play multiplayer, but solo, because I didn't like any of the default characters in Baldur's Gate, like MON or anything like that. I've never been one to really care for a story. I've been more of a power gamer, and I cared more about the power fantasy of making a perfect team. So what I did was I would make my own team. So I would have like Elenia, Laura, actually it was just 5 girls. And then I was like, I need a male name. And I wanted a wizard, and I was like Zizaran, and I like basically just tried loads of different Z names until I came up with Zizaran, and that just stuck. And I didn't use it for a while actually. I like exclusively used it for Baldur's Gate 2, all the way until Path of Exile, and I started using it on some of my male characters in Path of Exile. And when I started streaming, I didn't realize how important the username was. So my Twitch account was initially called PC Child, even though all my characters started being called Zizaran. And a friend of mine that basically became my pseudo manager for a while helped me. He was like, you need to start branding around Zizaran. It's a lot better than PC Child. Nobody's going to tell their friend to watch the streamer PC Child. That's not going to happen. So even though early on I started branding around it, I didn't realize how important the Twitch name was. And I later got that changed. And it actually redirects today. If you go twitch.tv/PCChild, it redirects to Zizaran.
I saw you had a video where you were like pretty excited about finally getting Zizaran. I assume that was for Twitch. Was that for when Twitch changed it?
So that was because Twitch didn't do name changes back then. They were working on the name change system they have today. So they like refused to do any name changes. And finally I got partnered, and I got a really good partner manager called Slyn. And he managed to get the name change anyway. So I have something called a legacy name change. That's why it still redirects. Because if you change the name today, somebody else can take the name. I think.
You lose the original one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. That's cool.
I actually do have one question because it's important for our podcast. But you did a house tour of, I think it was I don't know if it's your new place. And I should have watched all the way from the beginning to the end. But was there an outside portion of that? Like, do you have a lawn? Do you care about your lawn?
So we do have an outside area, but I've been recommended from all my friends that are streamers never to show anything from outside. Just so many people have
that's smart.
big problem with people finding the location just based on like, that's why we actually dimmed the windows in the video. It's such a big problem that there was an Instagram influencer that posted a picture of her pool, and just based on the shape of the pool, people found her house on Google Maps.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus. Oh, that's annoying.
It's crazy.
It's really weird. It's also another thing on that front that started happening lately is streamers, obviously some streamers do like PO box streams, and people have started sending GPS trackers to PO boxes to find where the streamer lives.
What?
Man, crazy people are so annoying.
Seriously.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Okay, so then I understand that, but can I ask if you have a lawn? Is that a...
Yeah.
Like
no, I do.
Do you care? Yeah? I don't want to give anything away, so...
No. We do have a lawn. We lately got like a lot of the grass dug up and got like a nice, like, I don't know what to call it, like, I don't know, like kind of like tiles. We got like tiles outside, so that was really nice.
So you got rid of the grass for the tiles?
On like half the outside area, and then we got like we built a catiary for Loki because he's an indoor cat. So we wanted to make sure that like he had somewhere nice to be outside without like roaming free, because he's a Bengal cat and he'd probably go kind of murder hobo in the neighborhood.
Nice.
What how many pets do you have? You have Loki, you mentioned cat. How old's Loki, and what else do you have?
Loki is, I think he's a year and a half now. Yeah, I think he's a year and a half.
Full of beans.
Yes, he's very, very cute. I've never had a pet before. I actually kind of, but until I had Loki, I kind of thought pets were a bit of a waste. Like I just never had it before, never had that experience. And obviously, like you do have the guaranteed sadness at the end, so it's just not something I grew up with. But now I'm like, Loki has something in every room. I play with him every day, and I love that cat to bits. He's so great. He's so smart. He can do loads of tricks.
Wow, that's really cool. It's a year and a half, and it's just Loki.
Yeah, just one pet.
That's so cool. Oh man, cats though, they just change everything. Hey, like when you're sitting around and doing nothing, and then all of a sudden they're on you or playing with something stupid, or I don't know, half the time they'll spill something, but you think it's cute instead of getting pissed off. And yeah, year and a half, you're in a good state.
He's actually like, he's not like an asshole cat either. He's not done anything bad. He's never clawed us or bitten us, or just really great.
Good for you. And you have a whole area. You said you kind of have like an inside-outside area for him now, and you have something. I saw a couple of your videos from before.
Yeah, it's almost like a chicken coop, but for Loki. And then we have like the other area that's like tiles. And I wanted to construct like I don't know what to call it, but like a mini house, more like a mini open house outside, just to be outside, and then you could like barbecue stuff under it. It's so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really outside that much either.
So what kind of stuff do you do outside of streaming? Do you have any hobbies outside of what you do?
Not really, no. I mean, I have a drone, and I really like playing with that. It's like a DJI drone, and I can fly it in VR, so that's really cool. Quite enjoyed that. It was honestly such an experience. Other than that, no.
Do you guys have laws there regarding flying drones?
Yeah. So and the drone itself is like plugged into like a satellite system thing. So for example, I can't fly it outside my door because I'm too close to the airport. In fact, all of Belfast you can't fly it in. We have to drive like 30 minutes. So we go to some mountains nearby and we fly there. And there's unlimited airspace. So I can go as high as like 300 meters is where my drone cuts out.
Cool. That's fun.
That is pretty neat. Worth the drive, though, I guess.
It's very cool. I enjoyed it a lot.
So another important household question, because when I go to Justin's house, like his house is just dumb. He's got everything in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it's just really annoying to visit. If he didn't pay me to be his friend, it just wouldn't work out. What side of the sink is your garbage on? Or do you not have your garbage under the sink?
No, it's not under the sink. We have like a garbage can at the end of the kitchen table, kind of at the right. So to the right, I guess. But not under.
Oh, but it's not under the sink. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I think that's pretty common too, Ty, that a lot of people don't put it under the sink.
yeah, I know, but you have it under the sink, and so do I. And yours is on the right side. No, mine's on the right side, and that's right. Yours is on the left side, and that's wrong. And your compost is on the right
We do keep
side.
bin liners under the kitchen sink, which is on the left.
No.
Okay, there you go. That's good.
Oh, wrong side. All right. Well, that's it. You're done. All
right.
the other questions are canceled. See you later.
So can you walk us through a normal day off for you? I know you probably don't have many of those, but if you have one, what are you doing on a day off besides like, obviously hanging with family?
So honestly, I would just play games. Like if I'm not doing like something special with Helena and my child, then I would just be playing games. Like it's still, even after all this time, my favorite thing to do. Like I love playing like RimWorld, Kenshi. I actually very frequently still play Path of Exile off stream. Depends a little bit what character I had live. Like last league, I played probably between 150 and 200 hours off stream. And that was mostly, I played until my Omniscience build died. And when my Lightning Strike build died, I was like, nah, I don't want to play anymore.
So you're playing hardcore characters offline, like when you're not streaming?
Yeah, so whenever I play off stream, I always record. Actually, any game, no matter what I do, if I play a game off stream, I record.
Oh, okay.
Because just in case something really cool happens and I want to show it on stream.
So it's mostly games then, even on like even on your time not streaming, it's just a different game or
Really love gaming. Like
that's awesome.
It's actually like a lot of other streamers will ask me about it because sometimes I'll be in a call. Like pretty much anytime I'm talking to somebody, I will be playing something. And whenever I'm playing PoE, people will be like, but you're not streaming. I'm like, yeah, I know.
That's
I love
awesome.
Awesome.
Okay, so you mentioned your family. Big congrats on becoming a dad. That's really cool. How old is? Sorry, boy or girl?
Boy, he is 6 months today.
Whoa.
Oh wow! So new baby then.
Yeah.
Very
That's
cool.
fun. How's that going?
Oh, it's really cool. So parents don't really prepare you. I don't know. I feel like a lot of parents lie to you. In my opinion, they really lie to you. Like first off, no parent warned you or warned me how scared you're gonna be. That like has he died? Like is he moving? Is he breathing?
Yeah, when they
Hello?
sleep. Yep.
Yeah, they
Did you have the camera and all the stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Camera, but even when I was holding him, I'm like, he's not moving.
Just like
Is
flicking
his
him.
chest moving? No.
Yeah.
Is he dead? And the reason I'm so scared of that is I had like 8 close calls. I almost died when I was a newborn. I
wow.
would turn completely blue. I would just stop breathing. And my mom would literally basically like throw me into the air and catch me again. And it would just luckily restart my breathing. And so we researched that a lot. And a doctor said the best thing to do if your baby literally stops breathing and starts turning blue, pinch your baby. And very often it'll make them gasp for air. So like that was something I was very worried about. And babies are also, at least in my opinion, incredibly boring the first 2 months. They literally just poop. They have no interaction capability whatsoever. So at least I found that very weird the first months. And I wasn't really prepared for that because nearly every other parent I talked to were like, oh, it was the most amazing thing. It was life-changing. And I was like,
The kid's probably like 5 or 6 at that point, and at that point, it's been life changing. But yeah, in the beginning, it's kind of like, all right, do something.
Yeah. So at least for me, and like now I have like talked to more parents. They're like, yeah, no, like some parents have been like, it wasn't really like that amazing until like 1 or 2 years. But even like now, it's gotten so much better. With like 6 months, like he just started like
He was
able to roll over between his like stomach and back. Before he would just get stuck like a turtle. And it's really special when he sees me and like brightens up. Like we obviously I work so much, so we also have a nanny to help out so that Helena can still like get some extra sleep and have some semblance of a life. And she's doing such a great job of like hard carrying. Like it's honestly been very, very easy for me, so I'm very lucky that way. But it's very cool because like sometimes when I hear him crying, I'll go take a break from stream and I'll go down and he'll stop crying when he sees me and he like brightens up, and that's really cool. That's really special.
Feels awesome, right? Yep.
Yeah. Melts your heart. You can cry on the podcast.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So 6 months.
You know what though? Sorry to interrupt. I do the same. My kids are 7 and 9. Yeah. Every night I do the same thing. After I'm finished hanging out with Just or doing something on the computer, I come upstairs. I'm kissing them goodnight, but I'm really checking. I'm like my hands on their chest. I
feel like every parent's done that. Where you're like, "Are you alive?"
It doesn't go away.
Fine. Yeah.
It doesn't go away till they move out.
Yeah.
It's funny talking about that. Like I have 4 kids and one's moving out today. My oldest is moving out today, and then my youngest starts kindergarten in a couple months. So, but yeah, it doesn't stop. There's constant like. Although once they're old enough, then it's like, all right.
They made it this far.
I've done enough. It's on you now. Yeah.
Feel free to not answer this, but just out of curiosity, you said you did a lot of research on your situation. Did you ever find out what was going on?
No, like I think the main thing that they thought it was just like generally what happens to babies when they have SIDS, like sudden infant death syndrome. They think it was just that, and I just didn't die.
Wow,
that's pretty amazing.
Because I just completely stopped breathing, like for like I think the longest was like over a minute and a half or something.
Oh, your poor parents! Holy cow!
Yeah, they were like, I was literally turning blue, so they were like terrified.
I had that happen one time to one of my kids, but it was because he stuck a friggin' thing into his mouth and it just got lodged in his throat.
I'm so scared of stuff like that.
Yeah, not fun.
Can I guess which kid?
Actually, it was my oldest, the one that's moving out.
I would have guessed
he
wrong.
was like 1, but it was those, the little caps that cover the toilet bolts when toilets get bolted down to, I don't know how it works where you live, but they're like screwed into the ground. They have the little bolt, the cup on top of it. For some reason, he pulled that off and put it in upside down into his mouth, and then went to the back of his throat.
So scary.
Yeah, I had to like put my 2 fingers in on each side and get into the bottom, like back of his mouth, and squeeze it to pull it out. It was awful.
Wow.
I remember almost passing out afterwards. Like I was shaking. Yeah, it wasn't fun.
So scary. Holy shit.
Yeah. Kids are awesome, but they're super annoying. Because they stress the shit out of you.
Yeah, but sounds right.
When your kid was kind of at that, early stage, but you're staying up super late, did you catch up on any like old school movies or something that doesn't interest your girlfriend?
I can't remember what
staying
show
up to
I was
stupid
watching,
hours at night.
So this is actually the only time I've taken off for something not work related was when he was born. I took 10 days off, I think.
Nice.
And then she was against this in the start, but then was pretty happy we did it. So we took shifts. So I would take him and then she could sleep.
Yeah.
And then, I can't remember what I watched. Did I watch Better Call Saul or maybe Breaking Bad?
All right. Nice. Good for you. Good for you. It's nice having the long haul there.
Yeah. And I actually watched it with no sound and subtitles because I wanted to be able to hear like him breathing as much as possible.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Like this was while I was holding him as well. Like I literally he slept on my chest.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
We had like angel monitors, it was called, and it was something that got installed under the mattress of the crib, and it would sense if they stopped breathing, and then it would just like freaking alarms would go off. It happened multiple times. Yeah. Yeah.
I was actually very, very surprised with how good like the UK free healthcare was. Because obviously I'm from Norway and I didn't know I was going to be in Norway either, but obviously I talked to my parents. But when he was born, for like, I think maybe 7 or 8 times, 1 or 2 nurses would come to our house and like ask us like, how's it going? Check bloods and just like check up on him 7 or 8 times. And that was like so that we didn't have to go to the hospital. And that's just a regular thing here. I was like blown away. I had no idea. And they were like, oh, is there anything you're struggling with? Like, is there anything you're worried about? Do you have any questions? It's great.
Super helpful. Similar in Canada as well. Not once, it's a little less once you've had more than one, but yeah, they have that similar setup, which is really nice because then you're not feeling super alone.
It's very good. Very impressed.
Yeah. Just, did you catch up on any shows or did the Angel Monitor do it all for you?
I don't remember, man. It was a long time ago.
I caught up on all the X-Files and the Rambo movies. I went with the ballads.
Nice.
So can I ask how you met your lady friend? You said her name's Helena?
Yeah, Helena.
My apologies.
So
Helena.
She's Danish, and I met her on Bumble. And trying to date as a streamer was actually surprisingly weird because I'd be like talking to someone on like Tinder or Bumble, and it'd be going pretty well. And they'd ask like, oh, so what do you do? And I'd be like, oh, I'm a streamer. It's like YouTube, but live. Hello? Please respond. And almost every time the conversation would end there. And
I wonder why.
I think it's a little bit because it's the 80s equivalent. It was like, yeah, I'm in a band with my buddy Joe. We're going to make it big. We're playing out of my mom's garage right now. But and even if you are successful, you don't want to go like, oh, but I'm successful. I swear. I've been living off this for 7 years.
Yeah, right.
So there's not really a good way to do it. However, so Bumble, for those that don't know, is basically Tinder, but the girl has to be the one that opens the conversation. So you both match like normal, but if the girl doesn't say something first, the conversation never starts and it just expires. And she opened up with like, oh, I think I can pronounce your name, because she was Danish. And I had like a bit about my name in my bio. And then when I said what I do, she was like, oh, is that similar to YouTube Let's Plays? I watched Jacksepticeye. And she is not a gamer, but she really likes watching YouTube. So she loves watching people play games. So yeah, she continued talking and we met up, and it went surprisingly fast too. Because I think maybe a month and a half after I met her, I was going to attempt to take the world record in most hours streamed. And she was like, how are you going to like wake up? How are you going to eat? And I was like, oh, I'm just going to order takeout every day and I'll just set an alarm. And even though we hadn't even been like, we were just like, early stages of dating. We weren't a couple yet. She was like, wouldn't it be easier if I just stayed over at your place, helped you wake up and made you food? And I was like, now that you mention it,
yes,
that is a lot easier. That is better than my plan. So
could you also stay forever, please?
Yeah, pretty much. And I actually very, very early bought a ring to propose to her. I think we'd been maybe together 6 months when I bought a ring to propose. And chat loves the story. They call it the pancake story. And that's because she passed the pancake test. So every girl I've dated, pretty much, they would very often on like birthdays or something like that be like, hey, sis, it's your birthday coming up. I want to do something really special for you. I want to cook you something nice. You can have anything you want. What do you want? And I'd be like, oh, pancakes. That's my favorite thing. And they're like, no, like real food. Like, what do you want? Like,
yeah.
Pancakes? And they made me stay. Every girl I ever dated other than Helena made me stay. And Helena asked the same question. Yeah, actually one made me cod. But anyway, mostly steak. Like no one recognized pancakes as a food. And Helena asked me the same thing. She's like, hey, like if I could make you anything you wanted, what would you want? I was like, pancakes. I just want pancakes. And she made me pancakes. I actually went out and bought a ring like that week.
That's awesome.
Are you guys engaged?
Yeah, we were getting married in August.
That's
fun.
Awesome. Good for you.
That's awesome.
We're gonna get married like a year ago, but then somebody started playing Plague Inc. in real life, and here we are.
Yeah, right. Kind of wrecked a little bit of that.
Very frustrating.
That's really cool. I saw the broadcast you did with her while she was actually playing PoE blindly. And oh my goodness, that was such a joy to watch. The funny stuff that she would say, like, and she's talking about how you lectured her about, the things that she's not allowed to do, like this huge list of things like don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But then she, hears about crafting in Path of Exile, and she's like, well, can I take that person's bones and turn them into like an arrow? I forget what it was, but no, it was so quite enjoyable. I'm happy for you both.
Thank you.
When you showed her how to, or when she played, did you help her? Did you give her some tips?
Not even a little. Like I said, she could watch my videos and stuff. But I was like, unless she asks, I'm not going to backseat her because I hate backseating. Wow. And she really wanted to play with chat, just being the only thing that backseated her.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so I mentioned it earlier, but you had some videos from Darkfall.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite periods of playing games was the online PvP with Darkfall. Did you play that for a while?
Yeah. So Darkfall is actually my favorite game of all time. PoE is not. PoE is my second favorite game, I think. Maybe third, but well,
now you got to tell us number 2.
It might be Diablo 2, but it's also like, so you kind of got to have like favorite games for that part of your life, because it's always going to be hard for a game to match up to nostalgia and just that part of your life. So right now, my favorite thing to play is Path of Exile for sure. But yeah, Darkfall Online, definitely my favorite game of all time. It's just, I've just always loved like games that give you adrenaline. And that's one of the games that did that for me. So I played a lot of Darkfall Online, the original one. That was a lot harder, and I was definitely a lot worse at that. But I really liked how unforgiving it was. And I think I talked about this a bit on stream, but I think there's a correlation of like, I would say my life is pretty easy. And I think that's why I like difficult games. It's like, if you've had a really hard day at work, you probably don't want to come home and be shit on by a game for 6 hours. Whereas like, my life is pretty easy. I honestly have an amazing life. So I really love for the games to shit on me for 8 hours. So like Darkfall Online, for those that aren't familiar with the game, is super hardcore. Where in the first one, there wasn't even really safe zones. You could actually get killed in a tutorial zone. You had 24 hours of protection. After that, you were fair game, even if somebody had like played for like 3 years and was super overpowered. And somebody did that. I remember I got spawn camped by a super experienced player really early on. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. I'm pissed, but this is fucking awesome. So I wrote down the names of every single person that griefed me early on. I made a list and I tried to grief them until they quit the game. I remember the first guy that ever killed me is a Finnish guy called Joka Kuti Huti. And he farmed me for like 4 hours. I farmed him for a day and a half. And I didn't see him after. So I actually might have made him quit the game. So he was in a clan called Snail Party.
Did you ever play a game called Shadowbane?
No, but I know a lot of Darkfall players did.
Yeah, that's where I came from for Darkfall, and that's why I loved it so much, because it just reminded me so much of that. The hardcore PvP, if you die, you're losing your stuff. You're starting from scratch. And there was no forgiveness at all in that game. It was so much fun.
Yeah, no, I love it. And another thing that inspired me really early on, I joined a German alliance. Like everybody else was German. I think I like joined on accident. And they like thought it was so cool that I wasn't German. So I was like the only one. Or pretty much. I think we had one American, one Canadian, and everybody else was like German. And it was called Schatten Alliance, which means shadow. And they weren't that great at the game. They were like fairly casual players. And I remember one of the most hardcore players assaulted our city one time. His name was John Blund. And he took out 30 of us single-handedly. And I was like, this is so cool. He's so good. He literally wiped 30 of us. I want to be that guy. So I started like no-lifing super hard. And you know the rune system, right?
Yep.
The rune system was basically you could go somewhere and bind a rune there. It would take like 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes to bind a rune. And the world was pretty large. And you could teleport there later. I started something called the Aegon project, which is like, I bought like 600 runes and I bound them to every single grid on the map world so that if anyone in my alliance needed help, I could just be like, what grid are you in? And then I would just write this corny thing like Aegon project activate. And I would go help them and kill whoever was fighting them because I practiced so hard and I became one of the best players because I just
that's awesome.
Ultra no-lifed it. So I love that so much. That was so fun.
Yeah, it was such a good game. And if you watch it, like I watched a couple of yours just because it made me reminiscent of it. It was so fun, like watching you cast magic, and it was just it was directional. You had to pay attention. There was nothing automated for you at all in that game.
Everything is the skill shot.
Yep, so much fun. All right, so what got you into streaming? Oh no, if you got more, you got more Darkfall, I'll keep talking Darkfall.
I was gonna say, and then the game died because they just refused to advertise. So they actually, it was smart initially that they didn't advertise because the game was so popular and they didn't want servers to die at launch, so they refused to advertise early. But then it was just such a hardcore game that the population started dwindling, and they refused to advertise. They finally did. They said they were going to put like $50,000 or $100,000 into ads, and they bought Darkfall Online on the side of a NASCAR.
No, that was what they did?
That's what they did. You can find pictures of it online too. It's like it was a NASCAR or F1 car, some sort of like racing car that had Darkfall Online on the side of it. And we were like,
were they unaware of the demographic?
You don't know your target audience at all. Yeah, what do you mean?
Wow. Huh. I didn't know that. I think I had stopped playing by the point I had stopped before it had died, but
yeah,
that is a little weird.
The very
end. A little weird. Right till the servers turn off.
Yeah, they actually had a very cool ending event. All the devs took over demons and stuff like that and started attacking player cities. It was like an apocalypse event. It was very cool.
Oh, that is cool.
Yep.
Still too bad it died though. All right, what was the process for you getting into streaming? Because did you do YouTube before you streamed?
No, not really. I did those like 5 Darkfall videos. And other than that, my first content creation video was actually like on YouTube was interviewing Steel Mage when he had won a race against me. It's kind of cool now that he lives in my house right now. So
right,
kind of cool that he was my first PoE YouTube video.
Well, why wasn't your one of the early ones also Noogie and he lives there too?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was scrolling through your old list and I was like, oh, that's funny. It's both of them.
Yeah. I
feel like they were your first couple for sure.
Yeah. It was actually Havoc, Noogie, and Steel. And Havoc did think about living here too. Yeah. So the process to get into streaming for me was I wanted to do content creation for quite a while. Because honestly, I was terrified of starting life in general. I really hated the idea of working. I'd worked, the only thing previous to streaming I'd done, I'd worked in a flower store and I studied computer science. But by the end of my degree, I was like, well, I don't really want to code because this is fucking boring. I don't really enjoy it. And yeah, I was honestly very, very scared of starting life. I really hated the idea of having a job. And so I was just starting to think, how can I play or how can I do what I love for a living? And what do I love? How can I play video games for a living? Do I become a game tester? Do I try to become a game journalist? Like, what do I do? And then I was trying to think of like gimmicks. Like, well, if I do something with content, what is my gimmick going to be? Why are people going to watch me? And I was thinking like, okay, what if I stream myself coding? Oh, that sounds boring. And then I was like, well, I really like writing. What if I write a book but stream it? Also sounds boring. And then just kept like spitballing loads of ideas like this. And I was like, I can do a Gollum voice. Should I do that while streaming? My voice will give out after less than a day. And then I did play Path of Exile a lot of the time. And a friend of mine watched streams a lot more than I did. And I had been watching some streams too, like Crip, Ziggy, Eatup, Havoc. And I found that there was no streamer really combining being like a pro gamer, like playing at a really high level while still being super interactive and have a community feeling. So I wanted to combine Eatup and Ziggy D into one stream and play at a competitive level while being super interactive. And I started in Tempest League, technically. This is 2 months before I actually started streaming. So I started streaming and I'd asked loads of my friends from like my ARC server that I did before streaming and loads of other games. I was like, hey, this is what I'm going to try to do. It means a lot to me. I really want to get into streaming. And Silva, who was basically my pseudo manager, was also like pushing me to do streaming. I think he was just tired of me talking so much on Discord all the time. He's like, dude, you talk all the time. You might as well stream. I like told everyone, my family as well. So I started with like 15, maybe 25 years, like anywhere between there. And nobody else could find my stream. I couldn't find myself in the directory. And I was like, I should be on the 15th row. And I can't find myself here. And yeah, I just couldn't, nobody knew was finding the stream. I would link my stream places just to see. And people would be like, nope, doesn't show up. And it turned out that Twitch very early on had a private setting that was supposed to be for if you just wanted to stream for your friends and you didn't want anyone else fighting your stream. It was called hide from directory. And I had streamed very hard. I was doing like my early 20 to 30 hour pushes. My early sessions, I was talking nonstop. Nobody could find my stream.
It was all private.
It was all private. I had done maybe 2 or 3 weeks of just going super ham. And then I took like a 1 week break when I found that button and went super hard when the 1 month hardcore flashback started up. And yeah, it instantly went really well. I got partnered within 5 weeks of streaming on Twitch when I actually started streaming. So that's kind of the start.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. But as soon as you decided to go public, of course, because that was by choice, you and good job practicing for so long. Hey, practice makes perfect, right?
Exactly.
It was just that successful that right off the bat.
Yeah, because I think I was doing I managed to do a lot of things right early on, some kind of by accident, but like branding and stuff like that. The name obviously wasn't good. Like I was called PC Child, but I got people talking about me very early because I streamed such an insane amount of hours. Early on, I would stream between 400 and 450 hours per month. And this is probably my proudest flex is that I accidentally had the hours for most hours streamed in 30 days on Twitch. Like I had the world record in that on accident. Like, I didn't even know about it. And I only found out about it because 2 years later, because obviously I just streamed like a madman. And 2 years later, people came in and was like, how do you feel about Giant Waffle trying to break your record? And I was like, oh, what now? I have a record? And I was so stoked because like that was so cool that I'd like done that on accident and made it even cooler to me. And they were like, yeah, you streamed 450 hours that month. Weren't you trying to set a record? And I was like, no, but now we're gonna.
That's right.
And then before he could even finish setting the record, I started on mine, which ended up being 505 hours. So he passed my record. And then a month later, I beat him again by 40 hours or something. And that was very cool. Would never do it again, but that was very cool.
He's probably that guy you trolled for a day and a half in Darkfall. Same guy.
Nah,
screwed him over and over again.
Nah, the guy I trolled was actually a Finnish guy, it turns out. But,
oh, okay.
So what did you did
505 hours.
505. Good Lord.
The current record is 598, but it's also a little different because the people doing it, they're also like not really doing pure content. A lot of it is just they're sitting there reacting to videos. Which isn't really the same in my opinion.
They're not actually playing games.
Yeah, they're not playing games. They're watching videos.
Yeah, they're watching somebody else's stuff. Sure.
Yeah. I'm just slightly salty. Slightly.
Got to figure out how many hours there are in a month because that's insane. Oh my goodness, you didn't even sleep. Just peed out the window while you were driving to the vet.
Yeah.
Now, I saw one of your tweets a while back. You showed kind of your setup, and don't know how often that changes for you, but it looked like you had 100 monitors. What do you have on each monitor while you're playing? Do you use them all? Is it all for something different, or what's going on there?
I have 4 monitors. I kind of want a 5th. So on my bottom right screen, I would have the game I'm playing, Path of Exile full screen. Top left, I would have half of the screen is my stream manager like URL for Twitch. So like just that I can see when I want to play ads, how many people are watching, and stuff like that. And on the other half of that screen would be my OBS so that I can see like, yes, I am on the correct scene. I'm not on the like show my monitor scene or something. Bottom left would be usually Discord as well as Twitch chat. So I try to keep my Twitch chat very close to my health globe so that if I am raiding, I'll like my peripheral vision will like pick up like, hey, you're dying.
It's a very hardcore setup.
Yeah, I actually used to have Twitch chat the other way around. I used to have it on the mana bar side. And that's actually part of why I died more to reading chat early and less now. And on the top right screen, I would have a browser. Like maybe I'm paying attention to something else like Twitter at the same time, or I'll have my music up and like, it's just like miscellaneous stuff. But yeah, browser generally.
And you need a 5th for...
I want like a vertical screen for chat so that I can have chat in a lot larger font. because I tried that when I was in Canada at the Rebellion headquarters. They had like a full vertical monitor, and you could have a very large font for chat, and that was really nice.
Hmm.
And I can't
Welcome to
really do that
Canada,
while
eh?
it's sharing. Yeah, I don't want to do that while it's sharing a screen with Discord.
That one's not vertical anyway, though, right now, right?
No.
Yeah, 5 seems reasonable. That seems reasonable. All right, so we talked about the amount you stream and the amount of hours you put into it. So for you, did you go into it, or do you look at it now and treat it like a job? Like, I know you said you didn't want to work, but to you now, do you look at streaming and go, okay, this is my job, I need to treat it like that? Do you plan out, like, do you schedule out your time around streaming, or how do you treat your actual, I guess it's your job, how do you treat that?
Yeah. So early on, me and another streamer slash YouTuber, it's Yoji, used to talk a lot because he was doing YouTube a lot more than me, and we were like comparing our stats as well as revenue and other things, and just comparing, like, because we were very similar in size, but he was focusing on YouTube, I was focusing on Twitch, and he eventually stopped going full time, and the reason for that, we basically both went with the same saying, like, do what you love for a living and you don't work a day in your life. And for him, that turned into do what you love for a living and all you have is work. And I would be closer to the first saying. However, it is definitely work. It is definitely a job, and you have to treat it as one. But I am also combining my hobby with my work. And I think that's why I'm able to do so many hours and that I still love it. I've also always been very good at like repetitive action and doing like the same game over and over again, or the same thing over and over again. But yeah, no, I definitely do consider it a job. I usually describe it as the easiest job in the world that you have to work ridiculously hard at, because it is so appealing, so many people want to do the same thing, and you have to stand out, right? Like, you really got to try to stand out. Like, why should people watch you over not just all the other streams that exist, but you're competing with television, you're competing with Netflix, you're competing with podcasts, like you're competing for people's time. So sure, you have to like really stand out, and there has to be a reason for people to watch you. And especially now, like, I have several other like full-time employees working for me as well. Definitely, like, help cements it a bit as a job.
Is that why you oh, go ahead, Justin.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, is that why you go and broadcast for maybe 10 or 8 to 12 hours instead of maybe 4 to 8, just for the sake of that being out there more and still having that name out there?
Yeah, so I actually almost stream too much at the moment. Devin Nash, a good friend of mine, has a lot of videos about this, where, with some exceptions, there's always exceptions to everything, obviously, and at what point in your career you are. But for most established streamers, the ideal time to stream honestly becomes between 4 and 8 hours, because you have very, very high energy for those hours. And as long as you're very strict with when you're streaming, that ends up being the best, because there usually is so much stuff you can work on off stream that will end up being better. Like, you can work on making videos for different platforms, like YouTube, that can funnel back into your Twitch stream, and other things. Like, you can be working on larger events, curating content, and just upgrading quality. I just genuinely love streaming so much so that I do end up with a lot of hours, but I am trying to work on doing less on stream, and I've been working on more things like, the Gauntlet and other like racing events that I do, and working on sponsors and with sponsors, etc.
Did you ever have a plan B if stream, or did you just go full in and not even think about that? Like, was there ever a thought for you, like, well, if this doesn't work, this is what I'll do?
So I wouldn't say that I had a plan B, like, thought out, like, I will do this instead. But obviously, I did have my bachelor degree in computer science. But I was very, very lucky in the sense that, so I'd wanted to do content creation for a while. I did semi-professionally play Heroes of New Earth in tournaments and stuff before studying, when I was like 17, 18. But my parents really wanted me to study. They were basically like, if you don't study, your life is over. You have no future. I was like, yes, I better study then. But when I was finished, I was like, Mom, Dad, this is really important to me. I really want to try it. What do you guys think? And they were like, we think you should try it. And if it doesn't work, I was going to try it for a year. My plan was I was going to get partnered within 6 months. If I didn't get partnered for a year, I would quit streaming entirely. And they told me, like, if it fails, you can move back home to Norway and we'll help you. So I was very lucky. Not everybody has that position, but because I did, I was absolutely going to capitalize on that. So I jumped in both feet. I had enough money to not require help or anything for 6 months with making no money. That was just like leftover student loans, as well as money I'd saved up. And yeah, enough money for 6 months. And I just jumped in face first, just went super ham. And it was actually getting kind of close. It was probably around the 6 months.
Especially because you wasted the first 3 weeks, right?
Yep.
That's gotta hurt so much.
It was at around the 6 month mark. I was like, I didn't want to talk publicly about struggling with finances on stream. I'm very open about like income, revenue, everything on stream, but I never wanted to talk about like, oh, I'm struggling, I need help, because I didn't want people to feel like they were forced to donate. Sure. But I started getting some very big donations early on, even without talking about it. It was 2 people, True Kryptonic and CRA. They donated between $1,000 and $3,000 each. And another person, Dark Rail, as well, like very early. They were very well off, and they were like, this is content we want to see and continue seeing. So they just dropped some huge donations early, and this was a little bit more normal. It's still an insane amount of money, but a little bit more normal early in Twitch because there wasn't sub gifting. So it was more common to see big donations. But that basically tided me over until I was able to make enough money. Because my first year streaming, I only made $8,000. So early, it's like very rough.
What was your time before you felt more comfortable with it? Like how long into streaming were you, where you were like, okay, this is actually sustainable?
It started growing pretty fast. I would say I made 8,000 my first year, maybe between 15 and 25 my second year. And even in my third year, I was making like over 60 or 80K, maybe more like 40 to 60. It was kind of like slow, but now it's going kind of exponential. So now we're in year 7, and I am looking at around $300,000 hopefully this year. And I am paying other people a full-time revenue as well. Like Vero, my manager, I pay him $2,000 a month, as well as extra for events he creates. Some of my full-time mods are getting paid like $1,000 a month or close to that. And so we do have like a lot of people working on this now. And I have other, like my editor gets half of my YouTube revenue with a minimum guarantee of $1,000 a month, just to like, if it's a bad month, he's still okay. So it is like a big company now, basically, or a small company, I guess.
That's cool though.
Yeah. Good for you. Congrats.
Thank you.
And so let's say there's one person listening that doesn't know what you do outside of broadcasting. I mean, obviously you broadcast PoE, but what else do you do for the PoE community?
So I try to do a lot of events. That's like the number one thing I'm focused on. I love making events like the Gauntlet. It's a extremely difficult racing event where there's just crazy amounts of damage mods on top of the normal event, and we end up with a prize pool of like $30,000 to $60,000 all included, and we get loads of sponsors like Shopify. The last event also had Hyundai, which is very cool. And we're looking to do more events like that. We're actually gouging interest in the racing Discord right now for a 2v2 event that we just announced. We're just going to do like kind of like more casual, like smaller event. It's going to be like, you have to stream your point of view because there's no group found in Path of Exile, like no actual official group found. So we do need everybody to stream. So yeah, it will be a smaller thing, and we don't have the proper tracking tools. So I love making events. I love making beginner content, which is kind of juxtaposed by the Gauntlet, because the Gauntlet is for like the hardest and it will absolutely destroy you. But then I love doing like a large amount of beginner content, and we have people that help with that as well. So at League Start, or before League Start, whenever Grinding Gear Games announces the patch and all the patch notes, we have like 2 or 3 people that help me create builds and the notes for the builds to make them as beginner friendly as possible. And that's like the main things I try to focus on.
Do you do the PoE University thing every league? Is that a series every league?
Yeah, so I try to do PoE University every league. We've tried alternating a little bit between not doing exactly the same episodes and just updating them, but like sometimes we'll do more like practical episodes where I'm like, okay, and now in this PoE University, we're just going to show you how to do it. We're not going to just tell you how to do it. So we try to alternate a little bit there, gather some feedback. PoE University basically has a principal, Araki, so we pay him to make all the slides curate all the info, make sure everything's up to date, as well as make it easier to understand for new players, because it is extremely hard to be an experienced player making content for new players because you don't always know what they don't know or what they don't understand. So we also do talk to a lot of new players. Sometimes I'll use my girlfriend and explain things to her, like, you don't know the game. Does this make sense? Or even my parents. So
that's pretty cool. What's a typical day I guess it's work of streaming for you now? Like, how's your day look each day?
So it depends. My day looks very seasonal. So in the first, like my life basically adheres after Path of Exile leagues. So let's say month 1, it would be preparing the new like league start content and basically just going ham on streaming. I do very little off stream stuff in the first month, and I will try to stream between 300 and 400 hours the first month, and then it would be maybe 50 to 60 hours off stream where I'm recording videos. We have a pretty good process for it now. Before, I would write like a script for the video and read it off verbatim, whereas now I will just have like bullet points, and I'll just be like, hi guys, Zizaran here with another video. I'll add some notes for Scry, like put in an animation here, stuff like that. And it takes me a lot less time, like maybe 1 or 2 hours a day to record videos, whereas before it could be 3 or 4. So that's a lot faster now. But yeah, I would say the first month of PoE League, I work between 400, maybe upwards of 500 hours, 510 hours. There's very little sleep the first month. They are always very intense. We're like coming to the tail end of the first month now. So at the moment, I would sleep between 4 and 7 hours per day.
How much does your streaming cut down in that 2 and 3, month 2 and 3?
Yeah, so in the second month, I will always stream at least 220 hours a month. I have a contract with Twitch where that is like my minimum hours to get a bonus. That sounds like an insane amount of hours to have as a minimum, but that was actually me offering that in order to get paid more. But yeah, in the second month, I will normally stream around 250 to 300 hours, and a lot more off-stream stuff starts happening. I will do a lot of negotiating with sponsors and reaching out for sponsors, organizing the event, talking to Grinding Gear Games about like, hey, this is the mods and what we kind of want to do for the Gauntlet. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any input? Is this doable? And a lot more off-stream work like that. And in the third month, I try to stream literally 220 hours or 230 hours. And I try to do a little bit more like me time than normal. So I try to keep like work less than 260 hours in the third month. And then I have 500 hours to sleep or do whatever I want. So I'll play Dota, I'll play Tarkov, I'll do whatever I want. And a lot more time with the family.
And that you said that was around 220 to 260 in that last month? That's crazy. That's seriously crazy hours.
Yeah.
Like when you think about a normal 9-to-5 job, you're still working over 100 hours more.
Yeah, but you can't ever compare streaming to a normal 9-to-5 job. You need to compare it with more like a brick and mortar shop, which my mom did. She had a flower store that she owned for 15 years. And she would, like, both my parents are very hardworking. My dad is, how do I translate this to English? CFO? No, I don't know. It would be like, I call it the CEO of trading for like a big geographical company in Norway. Oh, marketing director of a big geographical company in Norway. And my mom would work 6 days a week. She would get up like 5 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning, drive into Oslo, buy flowers. That would be like 40, 50-minute drive, then drive back home with the flowers. It's like she needed to do that at least 3 days a week. And then she would work until 5 p.m. and then continue working. And like then the shop would close. Then she would work another 2 or 3 hours delivering flowers to people after that. And she would only take 1 day off a week. And she would usually work on that day too. Like she usually just worked like a horse. And my dad as well would get up like 5 a.m., work until 8 or 9 p.m. So like, it was like, I used to say I was never going to work as hard as my parents. And yeah, they always make fun of it because they were like, you kind of work more than us now.
Yeah, you did a like stream with them. I saw that in your YouTube video when I was scrolling through it. That was fun.
It's really cool.
Oh, so one of the other things I noticed while I was scrolling through your stuff is you do this thing, man versus stream, which looked really fun. It looks like, so the idea is, Ty, there's like a rotating thing. BK does it with them. Like she like announces the things and tries to help them figure it out. But a random event will happen and he has to. That's not hardcore, is it?
No. It's on softcore. So
Okay.
man versus stream is just like, I call it a sellout event, and I try to like limit the amount of things I do like that. Stream does really love it as well. They actually ask for more, but I don't want to do an event primarily made on making money. It's not something I want to shove down my viewers' throat too often. So I try to do one every league, and it's basically every time someone subscribes or donates, and they can do this, like, just a lot of people save their resub for then. And whenever someone subscribes or donates, something will happen. And then there's extra options for people that have a lot of money and want to like make me delete some items, or make me fight with a specific boss, make me blindfolded for the next boss. And it usually takes like 6 hours, 8 hours. And normally there are other people that do the same type of event, but they don't usually have a downside. I have that if I fail, like say the goal is to kill Ziri, if I fail, I basically gift the amount of money I would have earned back to chat. So they can beat me and I don't actually make any money.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that. As I was scrolling through, because you had a number of them, so I was watching a couple different ones, and there were a couple that made me laugh out loud. But the best, like, little clip that I got ever was, I don't know what it was. You put on some sort of costume with like these ears as a Pokemon or something. I have no idea what it was. But as you're putting it on, you kind of lean into the camera and you're like, I'm a 32-year-old. You finish putting the thing on. It like actually made me laugh out loud.
It's like a flying squirrel costume.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
It literally made me laugh out loud when you said that.
You didn't recognize the flying squirrel costume, Justin? Come on.
I don't know what it was, man. It looked like a friggin', I don't know. It was, I don't know what it was. I just saw ears and it was fluffy and big and he was trying to climb into it. And then while he's in the middle of putting it on, he just like leans in awkwardly to the camera. Says, I'm a 32-year-old. And it just, it was good.
Very fun.
Cool. Why solo self-found and why hardcore?
So hardcore, I've pretty much always played hardcore. It actually goes back all the way to Diablo 1, which I played hardcore. Now, some people listening are thinking, wait a minute, Diablo 1 didn't have a hardcore mode. You're right, it didn't. In Diablo 1, when you died, you lost your items, but my computer was so unstable, very often it would blue screen and restart. And so like when I was able to play on the internet, that would always drop off too. So it was so frequent that when I died, I was in such a state of panic because I had to get back to my corpse before my connection or PC crashed. And I think I lost like 15 characters worth of gear and I'd have to start over from scratch basically. So I was like, when Diablo 2 had hardcore, I was like, this is basically what I'd be playing anyway. So pretty much all the way since then. And I just really love the adrenaline that you got of like almost losing your character. That's always been very charming to me. As far as solo self-found is concerned, I kind of don't want to play it. I've actually been forced into solo self-found because I am a no-lifer and I'm very experienced with the game. So the normal game kind of becomes too easy for how I want to play the game. I find that I will very, very quickly get things like a headhunter and just absolutely blast. And I did try having some like obscene goals. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to try to buy an Alpha's Howl. So that is like a skin on standard you can buy. And I saved up like 5 or 8 mirrors. But either way, I grinded out 5 mirrors in 8 days of playing. And then I had that. And I did in another league, I was like, okay, let's see. Can I make 5,000 Exiled? And I did that in like a week or 2. So like when you're playing Trade League, you can make an insane amount of money when you know what you're doing. Obviously, we're seeing like MP and 6 people doing like crazy amounts there. And it was slightly different on hardcore because on hardcore, if you're the only person that can farm bosses, you can make an insane amount of currency. So you're not doing the normal group thing for like rarity. I was literally the only person in the league that could farm Uber Ziri. So each disfavor would sell for half a mirror. So
interesting. And how did you deal? Oh, go ahead.
I would say it's just a combination of that and the fact that honestly, I think Impulsa is why I'm playing solo self-found. So I found Impulsa one time in solo self-found, in Trade League, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited. And then I looked it up. It was 15 chaos. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And then I found a Shavs later that day, and that was 30 chaos. And I was like, I'm leaving, dude. Like, there was like, at some point in Path of Exile, there was nothing exciting that I could realistically find. It would be a mirror, it would be a headhunter, and other than that, there was no item that could possibly realistically drop that I would get excited over. And that was very disappointing. And then I tried playing solo self-found, and I remember a build I was playing, I was really hard stuck. I couldn't find an Eye of Chayula. It's not a very unique at all. It's like 1 Chaos and Trading. It finally dropped, and I was like, oh my God, dude. And people are like, dude, it's like 1C. And I'm like, dude, I've been chasing this for 2 weeks. So I was so excited. And then I realized like solo self-found turns everything into a chase unique, everything into a chase item. And you don't play around like, I want to play this build. You look at your stash and I'm like, this is really good for that build. I'm going to do that. And that was a more enjoyable way for me to play the game. So next league, I might be coming back to Trade League because the Uber bosses are going to have really good uniques designed by yours truly and the other people that like kill the bosses for the event. So they'll be worth farming now. And I think that'll be really exciting.
Interesting.
I watched, again, some of your videos, and you got a lot of rip clips, obviously, because dying's not uncommon in hardcore. The thing I can't figure out as I watched it, but maybe I'm kind of getting it a little bit more after talking to you, though, is you seem very calm when you lose a high-level character in hardcore. Like, I don't know, is it just you're used to it? Like, you know, that's just what comes with playing hardcore. It's just, okay, I'm going to start up and make another one?
I would say it depends. I've had a few rips that were very frustrating. There was one where I actually like slammed my, not my keyboard, but I slammed the armrest because I was so upset because I had lost. It was not actually even that character I was upset about. I had just lost probably my most perfect character at the time, my Essence Strain character with like +6 Essence Strain gloves. That had like a level 31 ED. And I was so upset over losing that. And it was such a dumb death. I just literally not looked at the screen and walked into a strongbox with DD. And I died.
Yeah, I
was so upset at myself. Like, that's what gets me the most upset when I would say most of my deaths are my mistake, like 90%. But that one was just so stupid. I was so upset. Because I do read chat a lot and I do try to focus on that. And it was just a bad time to do it. And then later that day, like I was farming and I was already just sitting here seething. I was like, why am I so stupid? Why am I so bad? And then I died to a Revenant detonate dead because I didn't even see that. My animate weapon went off screen and killed some corpses, and the Revenant DD'd them. And I walked into it because I hadn't seen them spawn yet. I like flame dashed into them. And then I was like, oh my fucking God. And that was 2 of my precious characters. Like, I loved both of those characters, and they both died within an hour of each other. So I was just so mad. So there I like lost my calm. I think it was the most watched clip I had. I think it got over 1 million views on Twitch. It was, sadly deleted with the DMCA apocalypse back when everybody did used to listen to music.
Yep.
But it is still on YouTube somewhere. And I would say I do get more upset over people I would consider dumb or bad backseat analyzing my rip afterwards. That really upsets me more.
Oh, like comments on it and stuff?
Yeah,
like people looking at it. Okay.
Especially if they're really unrealistic. Like on one of my recent deaths, somebody said he deserved to die. He's using a quartz flask, a highly questionable choice of a flask. He should have been using an amethyst flask instead. Whereas quartz flask is the single most flask. That's why you see everyone using it, like Ben, Exile, me, Steelmate, everyone is using quartz flask unless you're Raider, which you don't really play on hardcore. And nobody using Amethyst because it doesn't have damage reduction. It's only the Chaos Rest. So that can be really frustrating, especially like pretty much a lot of the racers do this. We'll usually ask each other. We'll be like, am I an idiot? Like, and then very often people will be like, yeah, this is definitely on you. And, but other times they'll be like, no, that's fucked. Because right now in this league, there are 2 monsters that are like 10 to 15 times stronger than any other monster, the Void Jaguar and the Molten Minotaur. They're kind of fucked. So, yeah. Definitely something I'm struggling with adapting to. So still a mistake on my part, but it is absolutely fucked.
I noticed too, quite often you mentioned it too, where you like to interact lots, but I've seen that before where that leads to you dying because you've gone to read something or look at something. And
yeah, I mean, and that like me dying because of reading chat is always my fault because it's usually me choosing a bad time to do it. I am, as I'm learning, trying to do some rules around it. Like if it's a really juiced map, I'll try to avoid reading chat, like really, really good. It depends what monsters are in it too. If revenants are in the map, I will never look away from the screen. the single most killing thing. It's like the Stygian Revenants that do the Detonate Dead ability.
Mm-hmm.
So I am trying to get better at it, but I will always like prioritize reading chat more than living or dying. And even at the end of the day, my average deaths per hour right now is 1 death per 150 hours played. So the last few leagues,
Wow,
including
that's pretty
Gauntlet,
good.
I've had between 3 and 5 deaths. And I normally play between 500 and 1,200 hours is the most I've had in the league recently.
So do you like have a cheat code to skip breaking the eggs? Because that's the worst. To me, if I pass breaking the eggs in hardcore, I just won the game. Screw the drops. I did it. I got this as a merge passion.
With
It's good.
steal skills, I'm actually very careful on trying not to die there, because honestly, Act 1 is very easy to die in now. I find with steal skills, it's very easy. If you're a caster, I will honestly try to off screen or like kill everything there. It's very easy to die. Very easy to die there.
How'd you deal with hardcore when the game was a lot more unstable? I remember like the game now is quite stable. You don't worry too much about disconnects except for maybe the odd league launch. But there was a time not that long ago where disconnects were common enough that the idea of doing hardcore was, I don't know, I guess it'd be even more scary because you could just disconnect and sometimes that would result in a death. Were you doing hardcore then, or was that something you had to fight with?
I've never played softcore except for events like the BPL races that Badger does.
Okay.
That's the only time I play softcore, or the man versus stream because I play blindfolded. And that doesn't really mesh well with hardcore. But other than that, I've actually never played a softcore league ever. So I remember there was an event like that in like 2018. So even though I had multiple hundreds on hardcore, I got an achievement for playing the event. Like, softcore character kill Kitava or something. I can't remember when it was, but it was just very late and people were like, you didn't have that achievement? I was like, no, never played softcore. And actually it used to be more popular to play hardcore back when the game was more unstable, which is kind of ironic. It was closer to 50% playing on hardcore. And I would say right now, the game is probably in its more balanced state that it's ever been. And especially for us playing on hardcore, when you are building extremely defensively, there is literally only those 2 monsters that are like kind of seeing the Molten Minotaur and Void Jaguar, because they have 2 more multipliers and most monsters don't have that, and they're a conversion monster. Other than that, even Arch Nemesis is pretty okay because it's nothing compared to the old aura stacking. Even if you go back as recent as Heist, at the start of Heist, people would like open a door and it would just be like 15 auras standing there like, yeah, see ya, buddy, and just one-shot you. So I don't know. As far as disconnects going, I think I've always been very lucky in being in a connection that if I disconnected, I would always get out. I've only died to a disconnect 2 or 3 times in 23,000 hours of playing. So I've very rarely had like those tragic deaths that you see like Karatha or Steel Mage have, where they disconnect and they're like, no, and they're like trying to log in and they're dead because their character keeps them in. So I've always just had very few of those.
You only have 23,000 hours played? What's wrong with you?
It's quite a lot.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I have 23,001, so no biggie.
Nice.
No.
I figured you might.
It's AFK.
Yeah, that's right. Just trading. How do you motivate yourself each league? What's your personal goal each league? Character achievements, league challenges?
But
What keeps you going each league?
I would say PoE is probably, so I really like repetitive games. Like in Diablo 2, I think I have between 13 and 15,000 hours just farming Mephisto. That's over a longer time than Path of Exile though, because I played Diablo for so long, I still play it. And I regularly go back for like Path of Diablo and stuff. So instead of being over like, like 8 or 9 years like Path of Exile, that's over like 15, maybe 18 years of playing D2. But I still have an insane amount of hours playing that, and that is so limited content. Is basically just farming Mephisto over again. That's what I love. I just love doing it. Whenever I go back to Path of Diablo, I'll do like 200 hours to farm Mephisto, and I'll be like, all right, I'm done now. So I'd say PoE is so much easier for me because there is a greater variety, and you get a new fresh thing every 3 months. So even if the league is literally dog shit, like Heist or Blight, I would say I enjoy it very much for at least a solid 400 or 500 hours. And then some leagues I like a lot less than others. So yeah, like I said, Heist and Blight, Delirium. Delirium mostly for performance issues, actually. I would see myself quitting very, very early after like only 500 hours. Or I would start doing like, oh, okay, I'll stream 4 or 6 hours of PoE today, and then I'll do like 4 hours of Tarkov or something else, or just not stream. So I definitely did a lot of that.
Do you find it affects you when you switch games?
Oh, massively.
Like I know some streamers say that they do. Yeah.
Massively. If I'm streaming another ARPG, I can sometimes gain viewers because it's close to the end of the league, or at least be very, very similar. Like sometimes the last epoch can be like an increment in viewers for me. But if I stream things like Apex or Kerbal Space Program, I can easily go down to 400 to 600 viewers instead of 2 or 3K. And that hurts. Like it definitely sucks, like both financially and mentally. But it's also because I'm so comfortable with PoE that I can be playing hardcore and talking and telling a story, and there's no problem.
Right.
But if I'm playing another game, I have to focus on that game.
You brought up Gauntlet earlier. I wanted to talk to you real quick about Gauntlet. I'm curious where the idea came from. And then on top of that, is there a point where it gets too hard, or a point where you go like, okay, we've kind of hit like, is there a cap? Because I mean, Tyler and I don't play it. We look at it every league and go like, well, that's a cool idea, but no thanks, because it's just not. I don't like hardcore anyway, and the idea of making it like infinitely harder, just I would rather stab myself in the eye. But I'm kind of curious where the idea came from for wanting to do it. But then also, do you have an idea in your head of like, do we keep pushing the envelope, or do you get to a point where it's like, okay, maybe we've hit that limit?
Right. So first it started with like somebody made like a, well, actually I made it privately where all the mods on, and we tried a few people like PT tried things like that. And like, that was pretty common, just clicking all the damage mods. And then on the Chinese server, they invited us to an event where they clicked all the mods, and it was a boss kill event. And that was very cool. And it was with prizes and stuff too. And I think Karatha won that one. And we had to play through a firewall and VPNs. It was like 200 ping, 240 ping. So I played a summoner because I was like, well, I'm going to focus on moving and staying alive. And that was very cool. So that's definitely a hard part of the early inspiration, that like early China race. And then I was like, we should start doing this, but with not 250 ping, because that was fucked. And we started doing that. And I was like, we need to think of a cool name. And I really liked the World of Warcraft Gauntlet before Lotheb. There's like a gauntlet of monsters you have to run through. And I'd heard just really challenging things being called a gauntlet. Just like something you have to get through or endure. And I was like, well, this is going to be hell. So Gauntlet is a perfect name for it. And it started that way. And it started as a private league with I think maybe some of our first races only had 1,000 people, then 2,000, and then eventually they kept scaling it up to like 10 and 20, and then eventually they were like, okay, we're just going to make it an actual league. Now it's uncapped, so we don't have to pay for slots and stuff. And most we've had now is 60,000 players for one gauntlet. As far as difficulty goes, the gauntlet can be infinitely hard. And the reason for that is as long as people are able to do like Aziri and Shaper and any boss, that's fine, because it's all about just getting as many points as you can before others. Like if you kill Aziri and I can't, then you win. So it is actually okay with every difficulty. However, what we're looking for at this gauntlet is going to make the campaign easier. We want to make mapping easier. Still hard, like it's still going to be harder than normal hardcore, but we want to see a lot more people dying to bosses. We want bosses to be undoable, where it'll be like, oh my god, Steel Mage somehow managed to kill Shaper. Like more like that level. So that's what we're hoping we can accomplish. We're trying to work with TGD on that right now. Not 100% locked in yet, but that's like the idea of what we would love to do. But yeah, just because it's point-based, it can be infinitely hard.
Are there mods that you've come up with or wanted that they've just been like, nah,
yeah,
we can't do that?
We wanted to do projectile speed to make, for example, the Exarch balls, Shaper balls, etc., just very, very fast.
Oh my
and hard
god!
to dodge.
Yep. You are a mean man.
Yeah, well, can't just help people. Tutorials, then kill people.
You did the area of effect one, right? There was one where you did it like way bigger area of effect.
Last one had AoE and multi-support. 100% AoE.
Did that affect like Shaper's beam?
No, did not.
Okay.
So not everything can affect the end-game bosses.
Sure.
But we also asked for less spell suppression mitigation. So that instead of spell suppression cutting a spell in half, it would do 30%. And they didn't want to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly they've done anything we asked for. For the last one, we were trying to like move away as Fizz is extra because it does break conversion monsters very hard. That's why we did 100% increased damage. And we went to GGD and I was like, hey, Chris, we're looking at either 100% or 150 increased damage. And he was like, okay, I'm going to talk to Q&A. They'll test it a little bit for you. A few days later, he's like, we're going with 100. 150 is fucked. Like,
That's
so
awesome.
That's what we went with. And he was like, by the way, 100 is still fucked. Someone might be able to do something. And I was like, that sounds great. The problem with that, and it was really fun, well received, and nobody was able to finish the gauntlet last time, which was really cool. And the problem was that we saw more people dying in maps and less people to bosses. So that's why we want to be like more area specific with things. We want to see people dying to bosses.
Now, on the flip side, you're one of the few streamers that has made it. Obviously, you mentioned before, there's thousands, millions of people that want to do what you do. And it's really cool hearing how, humble you are with the circumstances you were given and the opportunity you were given to be able to jump into how you did. What's, if you're comfortable with it, something that you struggle with doing what you do and having made it? What's the flip side of the coin for those that would like to be in your shoes?
So there's actually quite a lot. This is something I've gotten a lot better at lately. And again, I got to reference Devin Nash. He has a lot of videos about like the behind the scenes of streaming and basically like why a lot of streamers struggle with like mental health. And that is, I'll just regurgitate the example he does. So it's kind of, I don't know if arrogant is the right way, but kind of unfair to feel this way. But this is something very, very common with streamers. And let's say that you have, like, you're a large streamer, you have 1,000 viewers, right? And you're doing really well. You're pretty happy. You've gone from 500 viewers to 1,000. You're doing great. You're making it full time. You're maybe making, let's say you're making like 50, 40K a year. You're already living your passion. And then something big happens to your game and you blow up. You go to 3 or 4K. Let's say you go to 5K viewers, actually, right? It's amazing. You're at the top of the world. You're feeling like a god. And you're like, oh my God, it does not get better than this. But it does get worse. And then you go back down to 3K viewers. You feel miserable. Now, you've already gone from 1K viewers to 3K. But this feels like a loss. And like, can you imagine getting a huge race like that at your job and feeling awful about it? This is incredibly common at streaming, but I don't know anyone that hasn't felt that way. And it's because you get so used to setting like a new zero, a new normal, that it will break you very often. A lot of PoE streamers struggle with this because you get 5 to 10K viewers at launch and then it like dribbles out. So a lot of people are like close to the end of the league. They're like, my stream dying, like, am I bad? Like, and I would say I'm mostly over that part myself now, but that was something I really struggled with, especially after setting the world record, because that was the best my stream has ever been, which I recently broke during that subathon you talked about with my wife. I actually broke that record then, but until then, that world record stream, and it's obviously insanity to compare your regular streams to while you're setting a world record. But logic kind of goes out the window as well, right? So basically what happened, I was doing the world record and I was getting 10K viewers per day and making insane amounts of money in ad revenue and donations, loads. It was like the time of my life. I actually paid off my student loan in that month. I made $70,000 in 1 month.
Wow.
And it was insane. But then the next league start, when I was not expecting everything to fall off so hard as well. I had like not set my expectations well enough because I had 10,500 subscribers. And I was like, okay, well, before this, I was on 2K, or like 1.5K, and I was not ready for it to go below what I was at before. And it went all the way down to 1,200. And I was like, maybe we'll stay at 3K now. Maybe so many new people have found the channel. Maybe I blew up. And it took me a year to get over. I even went to a therapist because I was really struggling with this. It's probably the closest I've ever been to being depressed. And it was weighing on me really heavily because as a streamer, again, another thing most streamers do is you tie your entire self-worth to your viewer number and what you look like on a weekly basis, not just like a monthly basis. and people will treat you differently too. Like you'll notice like more other large streamers will come by when you're doing well, and less will come by when you're doing badly. So not only do you view yourself differently, but you realize other people view you differently too. And like I said, yeah, I started going to therapy. I tried 3 times. I definitely did not get the right therapist for me because I have a very competitive attitude. And I would tell him what I was struggling with. I was like, I'm not like, I feel like other people are doing better than me. I'm not being the best. And he was like, you need to be the best though. Like, what about doing your best? Which I took that personally. I was like, what do you mean? Is my best not the best? Like, so I was just very, very upset over that because I am very competitive. And yeah, it didn't end up working with me. And talking a lot more to like my good friend Devin Nash is probably what helped me get through it instead. And looking more at my stream at a 90-day window. So I never look at my 7-day window anymore. I always look like 90 days. How am I doing in the last 90 days? And that does a lot better and is also more important. But I think to sum it up, that's definitely the worst thing. You tie your entire self-worth to your to how you're doing.
Was there a solution though to that? Like now that you've changed it to the 90 days, is it a little bit easier to look at how you're doing and not be so hard on yourself? Or?
Was actually that people told me, people like Pokimane and Hassan, who are 10 times bigger than me, are struggling with the same things. And then I realized I was never going to be happy with the current mindset. So I'm just thinking about it slightly differently.
That's good. Because I could imagine that being really tough on people's mental health, especially if you already are predisposed to anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
That would get infinitely harder.
Yeah. That's the only time I've experienced anything like depression. I'd say I'm like very happy generally, but that was hard.
It's hard, especially when it's new for you too.
Yes. Very. It was, I guess I just felt empty all day and I wasn't used to feeling like that. And another thing that's still fairly hard to deal with is just people shit talking you. I don't have the thickest skin. So, and I read every comment. Like I don't miss anything in chat. I don't respond to everything, but I will read every comment. So when someone says something shitty, it'll really stick out. And it affects me a lot because some streamers will have a streamer persona that they put on. I find that very hard to do when I'm going to be live so much, right? I don't want to have a persona that's different than who I am in person. So I'm just putting myself out there and I'm literally myself. So I'm very, I try to be good with like, hey, you know, that's actually making me feel really shitty. And actually that does stop people from doing it surprisingly sometimes. But yeah, shitty comments stick out a lot more because I'm like, well, this guy's being a dick and hates my content and I'm just being me. Do you have that personality where the few negatives will outweigh the majority positives, like where they sort of stick out much more? Yeah, absolutely.
With that, I mean, one of the things I was curious about, because I've seen tweets from you and I've seen videos where you're talking about maybe something that's going on in the game or something that you like or don't like. Do you ever have that doubt of putting something out there because of the response you might get, whether it is positive or negative from the community?
Yeah.
Because community tends to be very like, I don't know, sometimes they're just full of assholes and sometimes they're full of like nice people. But do you ever
I've definitely almost put out some angry tweets that I'm going to regret this later and people are going to shit on me and this is a dumb tweet, don't post it. And then sometimes I listen to myself. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, so like, obviously like, yeah, it's very easy to get stun locked and just get hung up on one bad comment in chat. I think I'm getting less patient with that now. I used to be a lot more patient with people. But I guess like maybe right now and maybe this league, the cup is a little half full or a little overfull. So I usually wouldn't ban anyone at all. And now I'm more happy to ban people. And if they want to apologize and get unbanned, I'll unban pretty much everybody. So I'm trying to like be a little shorter fused with that just for my mental health.
Totally.
And if I'm reading comments on Reddit and there's a dumb comment and it's downvoted, it does not faze me anymore, pretty much. But if it's upvoted heavily and I think it's stupid and I ask other friends that do like, you know, Steel or Ventura or Gucci, I'm like, this is dumb, right? And they're like, yeah, they have no idea what they're talking about. Then I'll be like, you're a fucking moron and reply usually. Here is why.
Oh, do you typically reply?
Oh, I reply way too much. Way too much. I reply to almost everything.
Yeah.
I
Good for you.
care. It's honestly probably my biggest flaw is I care way too much, both positively and negative, what people say about me. I thought it was kind of funny earlier. Cole said that I was humble in some ways because I don't consider myself humble at all. And I also I think it's kind of important to be proud about things sometimes. So I'm sometimes, honestly, almost the opposite of humble. Because there are like some of the things I've achieved, I am very proud of. And I know sometimes people will comment like it's kind of obnoxious when you brag. But for me, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if it's because I'm Norwegian, but having people be like fake humble kind of, at least is very off-putting to me. I'd rather someone just be really proud of something they've done. I think it's okay to be really proud of something you've accomplished as well.
Oh, definitely.
So, yeah. So I would not describe myself as humble.
Do you, when you reply to those negative comments, do you feel like you're doing, like actually achieving
No.
anything? Like, I just feel like sometimes it's just
Not at all. It's just stupid. It's a character flaw. I just care way too much. Like, I love seeing positive comments about myself, and I hate seeing negative comments about myself. And I actually,
So you're hoping to maybe shift their view a little bit.
I'm hoping to prove people wrong on the internet. It's absolutely a dumb thing by me. It's something I shouldn't do. But
Go get them.
Maybe it'll work.
Go get them.
But sometimes I will even get into Twitter DMs with people and talk for a long time. And whenever they're like, you know what? You're right. I was wrong. I'm like, that's the best feeling ever.
That's right.
It makes it all worth it.
That's right. Good for you.
Just has to work once.
Hey, though, big shout out. Hopefully the people listening actually catch on. Like it, shout you out for actually going to therapy, for seeking help, especially on your first time. There's so many people when they're struggling with something, they'll have, maybe it's how they were brought up or their culture they live in, but they have this negative connotation to needing to go to a counselor or a therapist. And so kudos to you for, again, opposite of what you were saying, having the humility to actually go and seek help and do it from people that even you're close to. Sometimes it's really hard to be that honest with your struggles about people that you know really well, right? Like the person that you said ended up helping you even more. And so big shout out to you for doing that. And just on a side note here, like people, anybody listening, no matter your numbers, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to feel weak or like you're not doing it, and it's okay to share it with people.
Yep. I think that's very important to say. I think my dad helped a lot with that. Because I know a lot of my friends, especially more friends here in Northern Ireland, would have this, but they grew up with dads that was like, rub some dirt on it. Or their parents would beat them to discipline them. Whereas I didn't grow up with that. I never got a beating and never got disciplined in that way. And my dad would always be like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to have feelings. You don't have to rub some dirt on it. So I think that helped a lot there.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now, looking forward, do you have goals for your stream or your career? Anything in the pipeline, or is it pretty steady on now?
So when I started streaming, my goal was to, for like a while, be one of the top 10 biggest streamers on Twitch. And I got basically ridiculed by that because I was saying that when I had 30 viewers. And then I managed to do that when I did the world record streams. I was like ranked 8th most watched streamer for 11 days. So that was one of the early goals crushed. And now my long-term goal for streaming is I want to be known as one of the bigger streamers on Twitch. Like, I want just random people to, whenever you ask somebody, like, so who are some big Twitch streamers? Oh, Pokimane, Zizaran, Summit, Soda Poppin, like Kriparian, Carnage. Like, I want to be included in those names and people not go, who Omega Lol. I definitely find that idea very appealing, and just becoming larger is obviously a very, very important thing for me. Other than that, I am just trying to slowly grow while preparing my content for Path of Exile 2. That is sort of the largest place where I have a chance of quote unquote blowing up. So yeah, I'm basically in full preparation mode for PoE 2.
Switching to PoE for a bit, and I guess PoE 1, even though we're all excited for PoE 2, what's a build have to do for you? I mean, you make epic builds. Your goal is to just never die and do the harshest content. What does a build have to do for a build to succeed for you? You know, it has to have this, this, and this. Otherwise, it's not good.
So for me, builds are generally tools, and it used to be a lot more like this back in older Path of Exile, where you would have a specific mapper, and that mapper could barely kill map bosses like Valspark. like really bad against bosses. And it's like, oh, my Valspark didn't kill it. I'm just going to leave. And then I would have a separate lab farmer and I would have a separate boss killer. Whereas now I feel like my builds are a lot more omniscient. Like they will do everything. Like this is a good, like Explosive Arrow is a good mapper. It's a good bosser. It can do lab. It can do heist. It can do everything. So I don't know. I'm mostly building builds that can do everything now and a bit more everything. But I do end up with usually one really cool map character per league. So like last league, that would be my Omni build with the Omniscience Amulet from Searing Exarch. The league before that would be like an int stacker. I really want to make an int stacker this league or an Omni build. So yeah, it's definitely changed a bit. I would say like generally builds that can do everything. And now you do want insane defenses. You want Determination, you want Grace, Defiance Banner, 100% spell suppression. Ideally, especially now, you really want to fit Melding for 90 max all res, and you somehow want to fit max chaos res in there too. So it's a bit rough fitting everything right now.
Yeah, and then there's something called damage that it's kind of hard to find when you're focusing on all that too. For someone like me,
yep, it's hard. It's very hard right now to do everything.
Do you have an old school build that just you loved but you can't play anymore? It just doesn't work. Something's changed too much, but that you used to really.
I did love old Winter Orb. It still kind of works on softcore because you can just forego defenses and still get enough damage, but it's not the greatest. I think probably one of the builds that I missed the most is either the Light Poacher helmet as an actual build with the Thorough Knives, or Val Molten Shell before that got reworked, where it would do a big damage AoE around you. That was really cool.
Right. Yep.
How about some favorite skills or nodes or classes, whether you play them or not? What's something that you're just like, that's the best? That's just the best.
I really love Inquisitor. I was just thought like all of Inquisitor was really cool. I love the balance between like you have regen, you have the battle mage stuff, you have the crit nodes. I just also think it's really weird that Inquisitor or Templar does not get increased critical strikes from the vendor. You have to buy it off like Act 6. Very strange. Why? It has a crit tendency. But yeah, I definitely really like Templar. Other than that, I really hate Spiritual Aid and all those nodes because you just get asked so much like, are we a totem? Why are we using minion nodes? Or sorry, are we a minion? Like, why are we using minion nodes? Is my totem a minion? Like, I don't know. It's such a pain. Anything like that. Bringer of Rain, not really used anymore, but he used to be. They're like, hey, your chest is red. Careful. Or it's like, why are you not wearing a chest? It's like, I can't win. And Thief's Torment for the same reason. Like, hey, did you know you only have one ring? It's like, yes, I am aware.
It's probably harder as a streamer, sure, because people are constantly
it's only a streamer problem.
Yeah.
So whenever they introduce something like that, I'm like, oh no.
We're going to get questions. You got to have it as one of those like commands or whatever you guys use.
Yeah. That's actually why I started creating YouTube videos, was so people would ask me less questions. It did not work.
Did it work?
Good motivation.
Nope.
Not even a little. Got more.
I'm sure there probably are more. If you could remove any mechanic from the game, what would be the mechanic you would remove?
Jaguars. Does that count?
No. Well, no. Well, okay.
I
yes,
don't know
that
what
counts,
that
but
is.
What else? What?
So the red altars, like the red influence altars, have two insane monsters called Void Jaguar and Molten Minotaur. Void Jaguars are actually scarier. They're the single scariest monster in the game, and has insane scaling. So if it gets any fizzes extra, can be from the Arch Nemesis mobs, from altars you touch. Actually, I'd avoided altars entirely on my last character, and then it got an Arch Nemesis mod and killed me. And I was like, I'm so upset.
That's just the Syrian ones?
Yeah, it's
altars?
only on the red one. The blue one has no
Yeah.
dangerous monster, and there's no similar dangerous monster in the rest of the game. It's only the red altar. And I have to do the red altar because I want omniscience.
Right. And SSF. That's true. Okay.
Yep. Shooting myself in the foot repeatedly.
All right. So let's say that mob gets removed, but what mechanic in the game?
Honestly, I don't really like all of Arch Nemesis that much, but the not Entangler. What's the totem thing called again? I can't remember. The thing that links to with Reflect. I can't remember the name right now.
Effigy?
Effigy. I hate Effigy.
Yeah,
What an
awful
awful design and awful concept. Even after the nerf, it's still so stupid, but it was insane to me how at the start of the league, I don't know if you saw, there were a couple of people that died to this on hardcore, where they would open a box with 3 rare monsters and detonate dead. It would spawn Effigy, and then it would insta detonate all the monsters and just insta kill the player because the detonate dead reflected. And so
Right.
even if you were into reflect build, you would just die. There was nothing you could do.
Yeah, okay. I agree. I don't like effigy either.
It's awful. I didn't die to it. It's just I saw so many deaths and I'm like, I'm terrified of this. There's
You just
nothing I
don't
can
know
do.
sometimes. Sometimes you can't even tell that it's there.
Yeah, it's visual clarity and PoE is at an all-time low.
Yep.
Now, this is probably the most important question outside of all the mental health stuff, maybe even including, do you have a Path of Exile tattoo? And if
I don't. I have no tattoo.
you would get one, what would it be?
Ooh, maybe a Siege axe, just to commemorate Torment Rend, the mirror worthy axe I made. Other than that, just Mirror Calandra is pretty iconic.
That's true. Hey, you just mentioned that axe. Was I have to ask you because my son knows who you are. Actually, when we went to, I took him to Exilecon. What's that?
Okay.
Well, we do too, but he knows much more, and he's watched you for a long time. And when we went to Exilecon, he pointed you out because we were hanging out with people. I met Tarky when we were there. We've talked to him before too, but he said something about this Undisputed, and I think he showed me a clip of you like yelling Undisputed best axe in the game or something to that effect. Did that happen? Was that the motivation for the design that you made? Like, did you do that before you had designed the card? Because you have the card that's called Undisputed or something, right?
Yeah. So that div card was designed afterwards. Yeah, because I never wanted to create a one-handed axe. I was actually crafting two-handed axes at the time, and then a person in my chat called Mitchy Bird said, "Why don't you ever craft one-handed axes?" And I was like, "Fuck it, I'll make a one-handed axe then." And then I basically accidentally made Torment Rend. So that's why I made the div card. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make a div card for a Val axe with Elder on it, with Merciless already rolled. Maybe that'll make it easier to craft because I still play Trade League, so I just buy the other cards. And I thought it'd be a fun reference too.
Yeah, the video was hilarious when he showed it to me.
Yeah, it had like multiple steps because it was like first it became the best axe, but only technically. There was another axe that had slightly more PDPS, but my axe had culling strength. So mine was disputed. Like it was the best, but not if you were playing duelist. So that's why like people were like, "Oh, your axe is actually disputed on standard. Like there is somebody that has one that's 2 DPS more." And I was like, "Yeah, but mine has culling strike." People are like, "Yeah, but if you're duelist, if you're slayer, doesn't matter." And I'm like, "You're right." And then Dan was like, PoE Dan, Dirty Dan, was like, "Do you want the almost best axe in the game, Zizaran?" I was like, "No." I also don't want a shitty like bricked axe either. And he was like, "Do it." And I was like, "You know what? I can't settle for second best." And I slammed that Exalt and I hit tier 2 attack speed. And it just became like so much better. And I was just like, Undisputed.
That's awesome.
That's how it started.
When was that? What league was that? Do you remember?
I can check. I think it's 2016. It was in Abyss League. Zizaran Forging of Torment Rend. It was 4 years ago. So that is 2018, 12th of January.
How would you know what it compares to other people's axes? Would it just be based on what people have said they have? Like how would...
Yeah, you just check. So anyone running a mirror service on standard would list it publicly for one mirror, and there are like mirror threads and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, the video made me laugh, and I think he actually. I remember when we were in Exilecon, he told me, he's like, "Oh, I said hi to Ziz." I'm like, "Oh, cool."
That's awesome. that was a surreal experience.
It was fun, eh? Were you there for longer than just the event? Like, did you go early? Did you stay later?
Stayed for a month. That's actually where I proposed to Helena.
Oh, cool. At Exilecon.
Yeah, well, no, we took a helicopter ride to a little island. So first we went on a helicopter tour of Auckland. And when we landed, we saw that they had loads of fishing equipment. And then Helena was like, "What's all the fishing equipment for?" And they were like, "Oh, we also do like these tours where we take people out for 6 hours, 4 hours to an island. They fish and they get to keep the fish and eat it afterwards. But it's pretty expensive. It's like 700 New Zealand dollars." And I was like, huh. And then I messaged Twitch and I was like, "Hey, I have this really cool idea and I want to propose to my girlfriend. And you guys want more IRL content streamed. Would you guys pay for this? And they're like, 700 New Zealand dollars? Yeah, that's like 50
Sure.
American. Go for it. So they paid for the trip, and I brought other streamers with me too, and we live streamed it. And then they were like, in case the internet goes, record it. And it did. So we had to like rebroadcast it on Twitch later. But then I proposed to her on that island out there. It was very cool.
That's really
that is
cool.
cool.
Good for you.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
You can do a Gollum voice. You said that at the beginning. Would you like to do? Oh! It's
I heard
some
it.
more. Some more.
Turtles? What are turtles precious? The trust. And you don't have any friends. Nobody likes you.
You're my favorite.
I can't imagine trying to do that for a whole stream.
No, I would have died.
Was that? Did you practice that, or like was that just a
No,
thing
just
you were
whenever
like, hey,
whenever somebody asks, I didn't even realize I could do it. I'm not that good at impressions, and one of my moderators, Vaush, literally nails it. Like I cannot tell him apart from the original. I'm like, holy shit, dude.
Wow, that's awesome. Hey, listen, we've taken up a bit of your time. I really appreciate you joining us today. It's been a blast chatting with you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
This has been episode 139, Forever Exiled, the Path of Exile podcast. I'm Justin AK Tags.
Tyler Recker of Days.
We will have all of Zizaran's information down below. You can catch us on the website, foreverexiled.com. We're on Twitter, foreverexiled82. We have a Discord, and all of our Patreon info is down below. Patrons will catch you in After Dark. Everybody else, we'll see you next week in 140. Bye.